Welcome back to Yankee Chronicle. I'm your host, Abby Peel, coming to you from Prospect Hill Antiques, right here in Sunapee Harbor. And I'm now joined by Cory Flynn, who's one of the owners here at Prospect Hill. Hi, Cory.
Hello.
Thank you for hosting us and joining me for these 2 weeks. Let's talk about the history of Prospect Hill, because you mentioned the barn last week, which I think a lot of people obviously know and love. It's quite famous. But talk about the history and how you ended up here in the harbor.
Yeah, so Ron and Barbara Sullivan started the barn, started Prospect Hill Antiques, I believe it was 1976, and I joined them in the late 90s, right out of high school. Started by doing simple tasks, you know, some of the shipment of containers from Europe that we'd unload, as well as some of the grounds maintenance, and then it just kind of morphed into a part-time job, which then became a full-time job, and worked there for 16 years before I bought the business back in 2016. So kind of the transition from the barn to the harbor. I was a local guy, grew up here in the neighborhood, so to speak, in Lower Village, and always loved the harbor, had a passion for it, always wanted to be part of it. It was kind of in my blood, if you will. And Rick Maston started working with us in, I believe, 2017, and he kind of had a similar vision or a dream, so to speak. And in 2018, we were able to purchase this building and moved Prospect Hill over officially 2 years ago from the barn. So we're excited about that. So we're here at 31 River Road, right in Sunapee Harbor, formerly known as Pete's Shed, as many people know it.
And it's completely different than the Red Barn space. So what was the vision? I mean, obviously the natural light that you get here must just be huge in terms of how you see some of these pieces.
For sure. So I started again at the barn, almost 20 years ago now, or 22 years ago, and as I grew there and listened to folks and became very active on the sales floor, one of the faults of the barn was for a vision for people to see what the furniture or what the piece could look like in their home.
Interesting.
So this was kind of obviously more of an in-home type vision for people to come in and see the furniture in a space that more closely resembled the room in their house. And then once we introduced the artwork 5 years ago as part of Prospect Hill's offering, it was just easy. It was easier for people to walk in and see what they needed to instead of imagining.
Sure.
Which, we love the barn for those reasons.
Right.
We could fit a lot of inventory, but oftentimes people would walk by the piece that they would later fall in love with, but it might be a year later or 3 years later before they notice that same piece.
Exactly.
So this really kind of showcased not only the furniture, but also the artwork.
And you can mimic dining room sets, a sofa with a coffee table, a seating area in here beautifully. And talk about the art too, because you have it placed, I'm guessing, quite strategically with something that would pair well together. But you said the art's fairly new, but you have quite the collection here.
So the showing art is new to Prospect Hill as of 5 or 6 years ago. Of course, we have a customer base that's 40 years old, so not everybody has visited us in the last recent years, so they're always pleasantly surprised with the art when they come in. But we do, and Rick has a big role in that, we do try to position and place the art with more modern or contemporary furniture, if that's the type of art that we're showing. And then some of the more traditional art we'll put maybe with an antique. But we also like to really be eclectic, show a great mix. We work with several designers throughout New England, so we've always taken a piece of that back with us.
Sure.
So oftentimes, when folks don't necessarily think they need a designer, they'll have us come out to the home, kind of look at their space, or they'll show us pictures via email, and we'll help them kind of formulate a plan. So without saying that we're designers, so to speak, we help in design in certain rooms. And sometimes it's only a few pieces, sometimes it's a whole room full.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just one, what we call kind of signature piece that really kind of makes a room jump and gives people a dynamic look that's different from kind of the cookie cutter design world.
And you have some amazingly unique, beautiful pieces here. So I'm sure it's hard to pick, but definitely something very cool to think about in somebody's home and be able to place it there. Well, Cory, thank you so much for hosting us these last 2 weeks, and I encourage people to pop in. There are 3 floors of things to look at here, so you might miss something, but you should come back again.
That's right. We have, even though it's smaller than the barn, we have 6,500 square feet with 3 floors, so there is lots to see.
And you're always moving stuff around too, so
always out buying and looking for the next new thing. So,
amazing. Well, Cory, thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll be joined by Keith Coughlin from the New London Barn Playhouse for a rundown of their balance of their summer season, including a special Monday night show coming up. But first, these words from another one of the great businesses that make your Yankee Chronicle possible every week here on YCN.
This program is supported by the Innertown Record, your weekly hometown community newspaper covering the Kearsarge Sunapee Sunshine region of New Hampshire. The Innertown Record.